What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Sports Card Madness. This is an awesome one. All right. I'm Nick. I'm here as usual, your host, and I've got super duper Danny Sanchez on. She is a Pokemon guru. She's a Pokemon expert, content creator, all things Pokemon. And we brought her on because LZ and I talk all the time about diversifying beyond sports. And I'm a dummy when it comes to trading card games, especially Pokemon. So I want to be schooled today. I'm going to ask some questions and learn as much as I can. So, Danny, thank you so much for joining.
Dude, of course. I'm excited to be here. This is
Sweet.
uh this is outside of my world too, so I get to learn some about sports, hopefully.
Yeah, feel free to ask me questions too, of course. Um, so I actually found out about Danny. She was on The Hobby, which is a really cool documentary. We had the director of The Hobby on recently, a few weeks back, and she was on there, poking fun at us sports card collectors, but she was also on there talking about Pokemon and how she's an expert. And that's how I was like, I got to get her on. We got to talk. So this is so cool. So Danny, the most hilarious thing for me was this segment of The Hobby where you were asked by Morgan or someone on Morgan's team, what do you think of us sports card collectors? And you had something, I was dying. I was like, I spit my drink out when you said this. You were like making fun of us for having like pieces of cardboard with like a patch that was like worn by Michael Jordan. And it was so funny to hear that perspective because we get a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to think, like, what do you think of us? What do you think of us sports card collectors?
No, I think you guys are doing the same thing that we're doing. It's just with a different actual thing that you're passionate about. And when we were doing that bit for the when we were doing that interview for the documentary, I remember thinking because the director was like, "Oh, we're gonna have you kind of like poke fun at each other. So we're gonna ask the sports card people about Pokemon, and we're gonna ask you about sports cards. So take any little jabs at them." And I was in my head, I was like, man, I hope they don't get mad at me for saying this.
No, not at all. It's so funny. It's almost like, my wife's perspective on it.
Yeah.
It's how
And
she feels.
yeah, a lot
So
of people think what we do is like really silly anyway. And it's like obviously like in the whole world of collectibles, like it's all kind of meant to be a little fun and just like you're collecting, at its core, you're collecting cardboard, but
yeah,
the things that are on it are something that you really enjoy and something that you love. So I don't know. We're all doing the same thing, just with a different actual fandom behind it.
right on. I like that. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we should have fun. So I get it. It makes sense. So Danny, when did you first get into Pokemon? Like, for me, the earliest I can remember, I was born in 1980, so I'm a little bit old. I remember we had the Nintendo 64, and I was playing my usual games like James Bond and all that good stuff. And then my little sister got this Pokemon game and just hogged the Nintendo 64 like all summer. And I was really aggravating. And that was my first memory of Pokemon. So what was yours? When did
Was
you get
your
introduced?
sister? It was your sister stealing your gaming console from you.
Oh, of course she was. Yeah, it
That's
was in the living
funny.
room, and I tried to bring it to my room, and she just kept taking it to play Pokemon. She's
No,
like, "This is great. You should play it." And I'm like, "Oh, come on."
yeah, you guys could have played it together, actually.
That's
You
true. I
know,
should have stepped away from
yeah,
Mario Kart for a few minutes.
some sibling bonding. Yeah, mine was like not exactly like that, but kind of similar in a way where my brother got really into Pokemon, and well, actually, I think we both kind of jumped into it together. But we both got Pokemon game for our Game Boys. We got a Game Boy Color. We got a Pokemon game, and he got Pokemon Blue. I got Pokemon Yellow, and we would just sit and play together all the
Oh,
time and just
right.
play Pokemon. And then it kind of evolved into we had those, and then all the kids in the neighborhood started collecting Pokemon cards. And so all of us, literally all of us collectively just started, trading our Pokemon cards with all the neighborhood kids. We did the thing where we'd like bring them to school and show everyone. And that was like my first introduction into it, is that my brother and I would play it together. And
That's
then we
sweet.
kind of like, yeah, we kind of stopped in like our whatever middle school years, late elementary years where it was like lame. It was like not cool
Oh,
anymore.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and during that window of time, I actually picked up basketball cards instead. So I actually
Oh
like
my
during
goodness.
that window of time, like I bet it was like 2000 to 2004.
Okay.
I actually collected like a bunch of basketball cards, specifically Detroit Pistons cards. So I
I
have
love it.
some sports cards, but that's it. Literally a pretty extensive collection of Rip Hamilton cards and nothing
Oh
else.
yeah, Rip. That's right. I mean, that was a great Pistons team back then. I think it was '05. They won the championship. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
2004, I think. And I
Yeah.
remember like, yeah, my family, like that was like our thing to do together because my brother and I were both into it. So
Ah,
we watched the
sweet. I love it.
Pistons.
I
But
kn-
yeah, so yeah, that was like where when I didn't collect Pokemon. And then in early high school, I jumped back in again. I like went to a card store, saw a pack of Pokemon cards. I was like, actually, I think I was like trading in a basketball card. Saw some packs of Pokemon cards just sitting in their card store. And I was like, oh man, it's been ages since I've opened some Pokemon. Why don't I get some packs? And I bought them and that was it. And
nice.
now
That's
like
awesome.
15 years later, 14 years later,
Here you
still
are
collecting.
with, I
Yeah.
mean, if so for those on audio, please go on YouTube and look at this because Danny has just this. I mean, she's got sealed cases behind her, stuffed animals,
So many
books.
plushies.
Yeah, just
So many
plushies.
plushies.
It's just very, very eclectic and awesome back there. That's really
Thanks.
cool. So man, I remember that yellow Game Boy now. That's so funny. Were those first editions you guys were playing with back then, you think?
The cards,
Hmm,
I doubt it. I mean, it would have been interesting to know because we at that point we would not have been able to tell the difference between a shadowless first edition, unlimited. Like we
right.
just have no idea. It
Yeah,
would
just
have been
playing.
cool to know, but I doubt that we had our hands on first edition cards. Just because I
Interesting.
think even back then, like if you went to a card store, like they would be aware that the first edition ones were like more valuable or like, more special than the other ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even I played Magic the Gathering like way back mid 90s and even in like 95 we all kind of knew like the alpha cards, which is their first cards, like the Black Lotus, that was pricier. And that was, 30 years ago, never mind now. So I get it. Like even back then, we were kind of like, all right, these might be something if they're first edition. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's
Awesome.
like it's interesting like through that lens. Like we're just collecting them as kids, so we're like destroying them. Oh, by the way, my cat's back there
Yeah.
hanging
Oh,
out.
nice. Love
Everybody
it.
say hi to Rafiki. Dude, she loves hanging out on the plushies, so
Oh, I bet. It
that's her spot.
looks very
Yeah.
comfortable back there.
But yeah, like when we were growing up, we paid no attention to like the condition or any of like the details that are really, I guess, collectors put a lot of importance on now. And
Hmm.
when you're kids, you just kind of like stuff them all in a binder and you're like, look at all this stuff I have. But
Well,
now
yeah.
when I'm collecting my sets, I'm like, oh my gosh, they have to be a number. I have them all in number order and I have all the reverses and I have the complete set 1 through
Oof.
245 and they're all in the right spot. And like when we were and they're all in perfect condition because I just got them from the pack. But when we were kids, it's like you just have a few and you just carry them around and you like don't really pay that much mind to what the condition is and
Yeah, you use them.
even
You
how
actually
rare
play
they
with them.
are. Yeah.
That's part of it. That's interesting because that gets into my next piece here, where I think about this as an investment. I always talk to people in sports cards, and I say like, what's great about Pokemon? Even though I'm not a Pokemon collector, is like Charizard. That dude's the goat. Like he's never gonna get injured, or if he does, he's magically healed for the next episode, right? He's never gonna even age. He's never going to retire, and he's good, and it's like it feels almost safer in a way. And not only that, but like it can get used. It can get used in a game, like technically, if you really want
Yeah.
to. So I was wondering, if you were like gonna invest into Pokemon, would you look to kind of go to that old school stuff, that first edition stuff, if you had the money, or would you go to the new stuff? And are there any interesting like chases out there, like we have in basketball? It's like, oh, we got to chase the triple logo man. I mean, what's this world like investing in Pokemon
Man,
cards?
well, I think it's interesting that you're talking about like well, you guys have characters that are actually people, right? Real world people that can do things that can, they could get injured. There could be some crazy, whatever, controversy news. Like there's a whole
Right?
like actual world of things that could happen with these people. And in Pokemon, you don't have that at all. It's literally like you have obviously the different facets of Pokemon where they have the manga and the anime and stuff, but I've never really viewed Pokemon cards in terms of anything remotely close to that when you're thinking about what you're collecting.
Huh.
I think a lot of people choose to collect the Pokemon that they're, their favorite Pokemon or ones that they find interesting. I think I don't really do too much from an actually like an investing standpoint. However, I think if you're looking to like pick something up that people are going to find more valuable in the future, you'd probably look more toward the chases in each individual set, like the cards that are harder to pull
Hmm.
or ones that are, yeah, like the special illustration rares. Generally those are people's favorite Pokemon anyway, but I think if
Okay.
you were trying to invest in something, you'd probably at this point the older stuff is kind of already expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know if that would do you too much good. I think maybe something in the middle that's like not old, but is also gonna be nostalgic soon. And
Interesting.
find some like big cards from that, like, stuff from like 2017 or 2016 or 2015 that's like not outrageously expensive yet, but still, people will be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
that illustrated card you're talking about, is that something, again, I'm very naive to the Pokemon world. Do you have boxes with packs and you try to, rip the packs and there's like one per box or something like that, the way we have like autographs in a box, or how would it work
Oh,
to like go after that card?
yeah, we've been talking about you're talking about the special illustration
Hmm.
rares and like some of the alternate arts and stuff.
Yeah.
This has been something that I've talked about on our podcast before, where we were like this Shadowless podcast. I have a Pokemon. I don't know if you knew I have a
Oh,
Pokemon
sweet.
card
Well, yeah. Yeah. What's the
podcast.
podcast?
Oh yeah, it's called the Shadowless podcast.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out.
every week we talk about Pokemon. It's like how generally, so if you're like I'm just warning you when you jump in, it's like 50% Pokemon and 50% us like actually talking nonsense.
Hey, that's
So
cool.
it's a good mix, good mix. But yeah, I've talked about before how they don't ever really, or they haven't ever really done something so rare that it's like an auto, like a one in a case or one in like a huge chunk of boxes card, where it's like a numbered card or something that's been like that rare. I think it was
Hmm.
Magic. Yeah, Magic did the one of one, like that ring card, or
Hmm.
like any sort of like numbered autograph card or specialty card like that. Like they just don't do that.
Interesting.
So the rarest cards in the set, even though they're like the hardest to pull chase, they're still like obtainable in a way where if you open 1,000 packs, you'd probably get it,
Oh,
for
okay.
any of those cards.
That's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
So yeah, it's definitely like obtainable. And I don't remember who I was talking about. It was one of the sports guys. Um, I was talking to, oh, it was one of the people that that owns the collector app. And he was saying that like for the way that they do the sets for the sports cards is a lot different because they have so many different renditions of every single person, and like they have all these different styles of cards that makes it nearly impossible to collect the whole set, where because you could have like 5,000
Oh,
cards in
yeah.
one single set.
Right.
Yeah, which is something my jaw literally dropped when he said that because I was like, "What?"
By the way, I think that's bananas too. And I collect sports cards. I mean, it's like you have like the zebra, double stripe polka dotted, prism version of a player. I'm sorry, that's crazy.
Jeez, man.
And yeah, if you're trying to collect it, there could be like 73 like versions of a card in like one set. It's nuts.
Gosh, yeah, that's what he was saying. And I was like, okay, that makes it actually impossible. Whereas with Pokemon, if you really wanted to, this would not be advised, but if you really wanted to, you could open packs until you pull the whole set. Like it's like something
Huh.
you could do. It's not impossible. It'd be kind of hard, but
That's cool though that you can
it's yeah,
actually
you could
get
actually complete them.
that card if you open enough. Are there Pokemon breakers? Is that a thing? Like going
Oh
after that
yeah,
card? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and are you talking about people who do live streams and
Yeah, I
just
mean, we break
yeah.
all the time, right? Because we're breaking for high value sports cards. Do they do that for Pokemon?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that. Huge community popped up when the pandemic hit. It
Mm.
prior to that, it was not big at all. And I know it's been in sports cards for a long time, but prior to I would say 2020, there really wasn't a ton. Like you could find it, but it was way, way more rare. Like if somebody was doing it, that'd be like there's like a few people on the internet doing it kind of a thing.
Huh.
But now, yeah, since the pandemic hit, there's like, yeah, on whatever, whatnot, and all these other live streaming apps too. There's just whole communities of people that are just breaking all day, just ripping packs all day.
And they're going for rarer stuff, like you mentioned. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and they do a lot of like the games with the bounties and different challenges and stuff. But yeah, so they would be just. I feel like with the Pokemon card breaks, I'm not sure about what you guys do in sports, but yeah, most of it's just like they're just searching for the rarest cards in the set, or like people need cards to complete their collection or whatever most of the time.
Yeah, for sports, it gets a little funky. You almost have a checklist. You'll have like 100 cards in like a very expensive set you're going after. When somebody opens one, you kind of like, oh, want, that's gone. Check it off. Chase the other cards. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of, you're chasing patches that we talked about earlier. You're chasing autographs. In some of the boxes, you're guaranteed to have like two autographs, but it could be two crappy players or it could be two really good players. And you can either bid on a team or you spin a wheel and get a random team. You don't really have that with Pokemon, obviously. There's no like teams and, and things like that. So
Yeah,
very different.
people do find ways to do that, like borrow pieces from that though, I've noticed, because there's some things where you can do with like the Pokemon's type, like the energy symbol, because there's like
Oh,
I
right.
don't know how many different ones there are now, maybe like 12 or so different like
Oh,
types of cards. But
interesting.
yeah, so people like do things with that, or like the different, yeah, rarity level of the cards. Like people find ways to actually do similar things within Pokemon cards. Yeah, but I think
Interesting.
like with the modern stuff, like people actually play with some of these cards, so it's like the whole thing is kind of just totally different, because some of those cards are really valuable because there's like a current deck that is crushing right now that has this one card in it, and everybody's searching for that one. So I mean, I don't know if they're searching for it so they could sell it, or if they want it for their deck, or if they just need it for their set or whatever. But I think there's like a whole other component to it where it's like every few months when they release a new set, everybody's decks have to adapt to that set. And so everybody changes the cards that they find value in that are playable cards around that whenever the new set comes out, so that they can make their new deck,
That's
you
awesome.
know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we forget that this is a game and it's a very well-established game with a very huge audience and it's very competitive with big prizes and all sorts of tournaments. And yeah, I can imagine a new set comes out and you're the world champion or you're ranking like top 100.
Yeah.
You want to look good, get the good stuff, and you either got to pay for it on eBay or you got to rip packs to get it, and that's kind of cool. I mean, we don't do that at all, right? Like with sports cards,
Yeah.
they're not like usable in a game. Although they tried with like this Prism Monopoly thing, but it's ridiculous. Nobody's playing Monopoly with that. It's just another version of those 73 different cards that I talked about. Not It's
Dude,
not
that's
like Pokemon.
funny. Yeah,
That's
they could do all sorts of collabs with that.
Oh
If
yeah, I'm
the Yeah,
sure.
if they wanted to. Yeah, the tournaments and stuff are huge. It's like a huge yeah, a huge community within Pokemon cards. I think you'll find if you start digging that there's different, like there is actually different communities for each of these types of Pokemon card collecting. And like you have people who are playing in the tournaments, that some of those people don't really collect cards at all, and then you have people like me who are like super super casual players. Like I'll like literally somebody asked me, like, hey, do you want to play Pokemon? Like I have a deck I could play, but i
Uh-huh.
don't i don't keep up with like all of the meta and all of like the really top level strategy. But I play very casually, but I collect a ton. So
Yeah.
my, card collection is huge. And I like my, part of my Pokemon obsession is geared around that, where I just have this collection of cards. But some people really just focus on playing and that's it.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't
and then some
realize that
people,
about
yeah.
you. I didn't realize you were more of a collector. I think of you as, your YouTube videos, like you're having fun, you're talking about Pokemon, but at the end of it, like you say, you play casually, but you consider yourself more of a collector
Oh
of
yeah,
Pokemon.
much more, because yeah, when I play, in general, I'm not a competitive person like at all.
Ah,
So when it comes down to it with a lot of those types of games, the people who are into it are really serious and really like very competitive people.
yeah.
And at my core, I don't really have that. So like I like to play for fun, but it's really, no big deal if I don't win, kind of a thing.
It's a certain mentality. Some of
Yeah.
us, some people dig it, some people don't. So
Yeah.
what's the coolest thing you've got? Well, like what's something that would make me think, wow, that's amazing, like in your collection?
Oh
Do you
man.
have any
Well,
like
in my
cool first edition stuff, or do you not care about that and have more modern stuff, or what do you?
I got a good mix because I've been collecting for a while. So in my younger days, like when I was in middle school and high school, I actually completed most of the original sets. So like base set, jungle, gym heroes, or gym challenge, team rocket. It's like a lot of those original sets I
Mhm.
completed, and I actually opened most of the cards I got from those. I opened packs to complete them. And at that
Awesome.
time, it was actually like you could do that. They weren't like hundreds of dollars per
Yeah,
pack.
yeah.
So I have a lot of those set. Those are like the original ones that came out in the late '90s, early 2000s, and then I have pretty much all of the new sets done as
Awesome.
well.
Oh,
As
you're a
far as
set collector
something,
then. That's cool.
yeah. For a lot of the recent set of like Scarlet and Violet cards that came out with like over the last year to 2 years, that's been like my favorite thing to do is like complete the entire set, including like all the reverse cards and stuff too. Which wouldn't be as hard as getting the one with all the prisms and all the
Yeah.
whatever polka
So you
dot
know what
this
I do?
that.
I find a way around it, and it's I actually do autograph sets. So I'll take a set like we have a few iconic sets, like 1986 Fleer is one of them because it's Michael Jordan's rookie year. So I set out to get that whole set signed by all 133 players. I pulled it off. That's a lot easier than collecting like 73 versions of something.
Dude,
But
but that's
it's
still a lot.
yeah, no, yeah, it was a pretty hefty thing. And this is so fun. You're gonna laugh at this. I was brainstorming just funny ideas to make cards more valuable during COVID. And I actually had this like weird, I didn't, well, I almost went through with it. So I'm sure you know who Mitsu the Arita guy. What's his name?
Yeah,
Mitsuhiro
Mitsuhiro
Arita.
Arita. Yeah.
Now he's the Charizard illustrator. I can't remember exactly what.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
long time one of the longest standing Pokemon card illustrators. Yeah.
So I thought, like, all right, I'm an autograph guy. I'm gonna get a bunch of Pokemon and I'm gonna try to get this guy to like just sign a bunch of them because then they'll probably be worth a ton more money, right? And I actually got in touch with him a couple times and he was very politely in like broken English, like yeah, I just don't do that, man. I don't do that. It's really annoying. And I'm like, oh man, there goes my chance. But he says he would at shows, and I think he has since signed things at shows. But that was like this funny little plan I had to get him to sign a
Dude.
bunch of old Pokemon cards and make them super valuable.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I think a lot of people Arita, yeah, specifically did it. I know he did an autograph signing in Hawaii last year, and it was a big deal
Yeah.
because a lot of the Pokemon illustrators do not do that anymore. I don't know if it's like something contractually obligated or if it's just something more of like a principle because a lot of people
Mm.
do take those cards and resell
Oh,
them.
of course.
And
Yeah.
so like that's like a huge issue that they've been having with that is people like
Rightly
they
so.
they will literally just use their signature to get a really expensive card and then sell it.
Yeah, there's
So I
different
get it.
versions. Sometimes they sign in Japanese, sometimes they sign in English. And again, I was like 4 years ahead of the curve, but I couldn't get it done. It's too bad. Uh,
Man, that would have been funny. Yeah,
I know,
now it'd be nearly impossible. I
I
do
know.
have a fun random story that doesn't have to do with a cool thing in my personal collection, but a
I love
really
a good
cool thing,
story.
yeah, that happened to me as a content creator. So this was a few years ago. I was doing a box break with the box that I got from a convention. So I got this booster box. It was a vintage one, a Neo Discovery booster box. It was from like early 2000s Pokemon booster box. There's 36 packs in there. Generally, you'll get like 12 hits, 12 holographic cards
Hmm.
out of that box, right? And so we were doing a box break on Whatnot. And I get this box from a convention from somebody. I'm like actually documenting this process, which makes it a lot more fun because I was filming some content around it.
Hmm.
And so document me getting this box. I'm like, all right, I'm so excited to open this box. We start cracking it open. And this box turns out to be this like once in a lifetime error box that had 36 out of 36 holographics. Every single pack in the
Oh,
whole box had a hit in it.
oh, wow. Oh
So it
man.
was, yeah, it was literally we and everybody who in the this like shook the Pokemon community for a second because literally nobody had ever seen this happen ever. And I got the entire thing documented like during the live stream. The entire thing was recorded like from before I cracked open the box to when I opened the last pack.
Oh, you must have
And
freaked out.
dude, I was losing by pack like because what happened is like we started opening them and I was like, oh my gosh, like we got 3 hits in a row. This is really weird. And I was like, okay, well, this is like honestly not looking good for the actual breaks. It's like a live break.
Yeah,
And if we get all the hits at the beginning, then nobody's gonna want to stick around to the end because there won't be any hits left.
right.
And so I was like, oh man, we were getting so many good hits, and we kept getting more hits. And by like the sixth pack, I was like, okay, this is getting really weird, guys. I'm gonna open from the bottom and see if maybe they act somehow they all got put on the top or like what's happening. And so we open a pack from the bottom and it's another hit. And it like at that point, I think we were like, okay, this might actually be like some
Wow.
sort of freak error at the manufacturing at Wizards
What an
where they
amazing break.
accidentally,
I mean,
dude.
everybody on the break must have been so happy. It's like Christmas. Like,
Yeah, I know. And like at that point, I think some of the people toward the end just started buying a pack because they wanted to be a part of like this historical,
yeah.
like, yeah,
Wow.
once in a lifetime error box. And yeah, afterwards, I like interviewed the person I got the box from to try to figure out more info about that. And like, I interviewed a couple of like really in-depth collectors of vintage stuff to see if we could figure out how this might have happened. And like our like best guess is that it was either something weird with like the weight calibration on their machine was off, or to I don't know, weigh which pack had a hollow in it or something, or specifically somebody at Wizards just was like just goofing off and just made one with all hits just for fun, like just to do it.
Oh yeah,
Because
just
there's
to mess with
really,
the
yeah,
factory or something like or
yeah,
maybe it's
just
his
to do
last
it.
day. He was gonna quit, and he's like, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna stick all the hollows in one box and peace out, everybody.
yeah, because we were sitting there, we were like, man, like, because okay, it could have been like they were like planning to do that and then take that box for themselves. It could have been like any number of things like that, and we don't know like if the other ones in that case, even like if all two other boxes from that case had no hits in them, you know,
That is
it's just
wild.
like, yeah, a very weird coincidence. But since then, we've not seen that happen ever again. That was literally the only time that's ever been documented to have happened.
The equivalent of that in like our world would be I bought a box of something and just I opened and like every pack had an autograph. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I've got like
It,
70 autographs in this box.
that dude, that
That
was
would
like the
probably
feeling.
shake the sports card world, like honestly, if that was on a break or something. So that's wild. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
it was nuts. I couldn't believe it. And it was just so, yeah, it was so weird. The guy who sold me the box too was like kicking himself because he was thinking
Oh
about, it was one of
man.
those things where he was thinking about opening it and then he was like, nah, nah, I think I'm just gonna sell it. It's more responsible to sell it. I think I'm just gonna sell it. And then yeah, that's
Well,
that's what happened with
what
it.
was the value of that box unopened, give or take?
Oh, I think at that time maybe like around
All
$12,000.
right, so
So it
that's
was,
a $12,000 box. What was the value of all the cards you broke? Was it more than 12,000?
yeah, for sure more than 12,000. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, we would have to calculate that because we got, I think, every single hollow in the set minus one. There was one card one hollow we didn't end up getting, but we got multiple of like the big hitter. Like we got multiple of the chase cards. So it
Cool.
was, yeah, it was a really good break.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I kind of like, yeah, I want to watch that or somehow.
Yeah, I did a video on it. I just had snippets of it because unfortunately so I was recording it at an
Right.
office that wasn't my studio and their gear wasn't fully like set up for it. And so the mic
Weren't prepared for
qualities,
such an unprecedented event to
dude,
happen, right? If they knew it was
yeah,
going to
what
happen,
the
all the
heck?
gear would have been ready.
I'm just happy I decided to, because it was my idea to dual stream it at the time because it was a partnership with Whatnot. At the time, they just wanted it to be whatever on their app, and I was like, dude,
Yeah,
if
of
we're opening a vintage box, I'm gonna record it on my like I'm gonna stream it on
course.
my end too.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so I was the one who proposed that we record it, like to have a live stream of it anywhere else because they didn't like save the live streams at the time. They hadn't had that as a feature yet.
Right.
And so had I not like even thought to do like stream it somewhere else, all that the footage would have been non-existent aside from people like screen recording and screenshotting it.
Wow. Good for you.
But
Good
yeah,
for
dude,
you.
it's yeah, such a cool thing. The video that I did was like kind of like a, talking about how freak of a thing that was and like talking to my friends about it. And I had footage from the break in there showing all 36 packs too.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it was crazy.
All right, so for Pokemon in the sports card world, we always debate, right? We're like, all right, who's better, Michael Jordan, LeBron James? Who's your top four? So who's your Mount Rushmore of Pokemon? So this would mean there's who are your top four Pokemon of all time?
Oh man. And this is gonna be funny. You phrase it like Mount Rushmore because mine are
Yeah.
all like really cute little Pokemon. Like they're
All
not
right.
like it's
Who are
not gonna
yours?
be Charizard and a Blastoise. So my favorites are Growlithe, Togepi. No, you know Togepi, right?
I don't know any of these. I
Bro,
mean,
you
I know, all right, so I know Mewtwo, Charizard. I know that Blasty's like a turtle or something, a blue turtle. And then Pikachu, obviously, I know Pikachu.
bro,
Um,
this is all you know?
I don't know. I mean, I probably know
Oh
like
my
six or
god.
seven.
There's over 1,000 Pokemon, Nick. There's over a
Oh,
thousand.
man.
You got some catching up to do. Yeah, there's so I mean Togepi and Growlithe are pretty original. They're from like the first two generations. So
Okay.
you should know those guys, or
I
I think
promise I
some of
will
your
look all
viewers
these
will.
up after. I promise. Okay.
You gotta look up the whole Pokedex now and start studying.
Awesome. All right. So I
Uh
have, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, we got Growlithe, we got Togepi, Slowpoke. And
Hmm.
then for the fourth one, honestly, I'm not too confident in who my fourth favorite is. I'm gonna say Mew, but
Okay.
that one could be
Mewtwo, right? That
interchangeable.
cool alien looking one.
So
Like,
there's two of them. Mewtwo is the big one,
oh,
like the
okay.
big alien guy, and then there's a little guy, really little guy. He kind of resembles like if a Sphinx cat was like a fairy and could fly around, no
Okay.
wings or anything, but just floating around.
I like it.
But he's called Mew, just a little pink guy.
I love it. I'm
Um,
getting educated. This is great. I didn't
yeah,
expect any of these, so that's awesome.
yeah, and when you look them up, you're gonna be like, "This is hilarious" because they all look like really cute and derpy.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're really precious.
So I got one more kind of question before we do like we close it out with like a rapid fire round.
Ho ho ho.
So you've been crushing it, on YouTube for a while as content creator, and I just wonder, I'm sure some people listening have a YouTube channel. We do in the sports card world as well. Do you have any advice for them to get from like 0 to 1,000 or like 1,000 to 10,000? Like any wisdom that you've learned? Because I think you're
Ooh,
nearing 300,000 now, which is pretty damn impressive. So like
thanks.
I don't know, what's any do you have any advice for them out there?
Yeah, I mean, when I started my channel, it was a completely different world for YouTube, really any social media. So like anything from where I started is probably pretty irrelevant now as far as like how to grow that way.
Uh-huh.
I was one of like the first people to do Pokemon tutorials on YouTube at all. And the video when I first started, it was like pretty simple, like just like unboxing videos, very simple stuff. So if you wanted to start today, I would I would say even like before making your videos, make sure before like, starting to post and doing all of that, I would make sure that it's something you're truly passionate about and truly interested in at
Mm,
its core from like the perspective of the hobby or the thing that you're talking about. Just because throughout your career as a content creator, there will be lots and lots of ups and downs and moments where you don't feel, things aren't working and you don't know if what you're doing wrong or like you're trying to figure out how to pick yourself back up and start creating stuff that people are interested in again.
mm,
There's tons of moments like that where they're very very difficult to do if you're not interested in the thing you're talking about. So I would
right.
say before anything, make sure you're 100% interested in that part of it. And then on top of that, I think like, I mean, you could listen to somebody who's an expert on YouTube talk about, uploading consistently, making sure you have your thumbnails that are like eye catching. There's like all sorts of stuff like that. But I think at its core, if you're passionate about the thing that you're talking about, like people will see that. I think there's a lot of people who are creating things like more so from a perspective of like, this is a business and I'm making this to grow a business. But I think if you start creating stuff that's like genuinely authentically you and what you value and the things that you like, people will see that, like that'll come through and people will enjoy that more than anything else.
I like that. And again, for those on audio, you can see Danny's like passion, right? She's got the brightest orange hoodie I've ever seen in my life.
It's
It's like
got
waking,
Charizard on it.
yeah, it's Charizard's orange, and it's like waking me up. It's so bright. I love it. And then behind her, again, there's just shelves upon shelves of Pokemon. You can tell she lives and breathes this, which is awesome. It's really cool that you've been able to find something that you love so much and build kind of a following out of it. So thank you for that advice. That's super super
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, of course. That's like been something that I've stood true to like my whole time making videos. Like if I didn't enjoy doing this one, I just wouldn't have started in the first place. But
Of course.
I don't think it would have kept me going I've been making videos for like 14, 15 years. Like 14 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
good
I
for
started my
you.
channel in 2008, dude.
Woo, man.
I'm still here.
So, oh, wow, that's impressive. So, all right, rapid fire round. I put these together myself because again, this is going to school me. Okay. Who is the coolest Pokemon?
Oh, come on. For rapid fire, there's like I just told you there's like 1,000
No,
Pokemon.
you got to pick the coolest one, just like the coolest one that comes to your head.
Oh man, I'm gonna say Mewtwo out the gate, but there's so many more cool Pokemon.
All right, I like that one. He's kind of a
Mewtwo.
badass. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
Mewtwo. Who's the most powerful Pokemon that would like beat anyone in a fight?
These questions are you're asking questions. The only reason they're difficult is because I know my Pokemon community. And if you're asking this to somebody who plays the video game versus somebody that does the card game, you're gonna get two very different answers,
All right.
or people who watch the manga or anything. I would give it to a big legendary Pokemon though. I'm gonna say Rayquaza, but
Okay.
there's any number of legendary. Somebody's gonna be like, oh, but actually, if you look at the
Yeah,
stats
yeah.
for
We're not
Rayquaza.
getting technical here. We're just saying like, all right, who can beat somebody up? Okay.
You
Yeah,
know, it's
there's gonna
funny.
be.
I might say Mewtwo again, but I'll to diversify. I say Rayquaza.
All right, I dig it. Who's the lamest Pokemon? Shouldn't even be in the game. Shouldn't even have a card. Who should get kicked out of the Pokemon universe?
My least favorite Pokemon is this Pokemon called Stunfisk. So it's like this weird little flat fish looking guy that just like sits there. There's since then though, because that's been like my recurring theme of like, oh, this one is so silly. It's my least favorite. It's so silly. They've come out with like a trash bag Pokemon and like a keys, or the Pokemon that's just like a set of keys, you know? It's just
Okay.
like this at a certain point, there's like some of those Pokemon. I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? There's one that's literally just like a bag of trash.
A pet place.
Yeah, he's called
Like you're not
Trubbish.
kidding. You're not kidding. Like literally a bag of trash.
Yeah, yeah. Look up Trubbish. He's a little trash bag.
Rubbish.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna
and then
buy it.
he
You know what?
evolves.
I'm gonna
He
buy a
evolves into
Trubbish
more
card.
trash.
I'm gonna try
Dude,
to
you
I'm
should.
gonna try to PSA 10 a Trubbish card. All right. We're gonna do this.
You could do it too. I believe in you.
All right. We got Charizard, Pikachu, and Mewtwo. Okay. You got
Hmm.
to pick one, and the other two disappear forever.
Oh man. Do we gotta go with Pikachu though, because he's the mascot of the Pokemon world. If we didn't have Pikachu, what would we have?
Right. He's like your ambassador. Like he's in
Yeah.
movies and yeah, it's like
He's
it's
in
like the logo.
everything. He's the
Right.
star. Yeah, you see how many Pikachu just
Right.
coincidentally, like Pikachu's not my
At least a
favorite
dozen.
Pokemon,
Yeah.
but there's so many Pikachus back there. They even like for events and stuff, the Pokemon hosts, whenever they do like a special event, they have a mascot Pikachu. This is generally not every single time, but they'll have mascot Pikachus with like different outfits on for the theme of the event. Like
I
they'll
love
just
it.
like every occasion they'll just like dress up Pikachu and have them dance around and do parades and stuff.
That
It's
makes
so
sense.
cute.
I mean, that
It's
Game
so
Boy
cute.
was Pikachu's color, right? You know, it's like
Yeah,
so yeah, you're right. He's gotta stay. He's gotta
he
stay.
has to. He
All right.
has to.
What's one Pokemon card that you want to own but don't?
Oh man, that I want to own. There's so many. Any of the ones that are outrageously expensive. I would say like above anything, probably an illustrator card, a Pikachu illustrator card, the original one. Because I don't have like a first edition Charizard.
Yeah, I
I don't
mean that
have
would
any of
be
those ones that are like hundreds of thousands of dollars. A lot of the rare ones that I have were just ones that I opened when I was younger and
ooh.
that are now very expensive. They weren't expensive when I got them or when I opened the packs. But yeah, I do not have any of like the huge ones. So I would say a Pikachu illustrator.
So what is the illustrator card? Sorry. What makes that special or what makes it an illustrator card?
Oh man. Well, the one because they have them from a whole like series over the years. They've done these illustration contests
Mm-hmm.
where basically, and up until very recently, they were only in Japan, pretty much. So they basically host a competition where people submit artwork to be featured on a Pokemon card. So they're like they've
Oh,
done them before where they'll like have like the general outline of the character and they're like, okay, you color this in, or they'll be like, this is the vibe, you like design the card like with this theme. They've done some with like grade school kids before where they're like actual like kids art on the cards. But yeah, at its core it's like literally they host a competition and they pick a winner and the winner gets a card with their drawing on it.
okay. I had no idea that's pretty cool. You know, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
they've done them over the year. Like they even did one last year. They are still continuing to do the illustration contest.
Your card should be the card that you eventually illustrate. That would be your card, right? Imagine that.
That would be crazy. Yeah,
I
I've
am
thought about. I used to be into art like quite a bit, but man, I've seen some of these entries for these illustration contests. I'm like, I'd be toast. Like
Yeah.
these artists are phenomenal that are
They
entering for
they
these.
probably get a bazillion, entries, and yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
All right. I've got one last question for you. If you were forced to collect a sports card or cards of a sports figure or a sport in general, like what sport would you pick and what player would you pick and why?
Oh man, that's funny. So I actually did play a lot of sports growing up.
Hmm.
Surprisingly, I don't do anything with sports now. I go on like a walk outside and that's my exercise. Like I literally am so removed from sports. I used to play soccer and basketball and volleyball and
Hmm.
baseball and I ran track and I
Oh,
did pretty much like yeah, like every season I had a sport. So I definitely was like in the world of sports a lot growing up. My brother, I think it was dude, whatever hobby my brother had, I was like, "Oh, that's my hobby too."
oh,
Because
cool.
looking back at it, I feel like that's how it went. I don't know if coincidentally we always had similar hobbies, but anyway, we did collect, like I said, we collected basketball cards together, and I remember really enjoying that. Um, I don't know anything about football. I think I know the most about basketball out of any of those. So I probably pick a basketball. Like, yeah, I probably pick basketball cards as far as the players. Literally, that would
Don't.
be just like I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
go with the Pistons players, right? From maybe the championship year or something like that from your Michigan days.
you know what? Yeah, I would probably go back and get every single Chauncey Billups card.
There you
We
go.
got Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace was that guy was an actual like
That he was a
character. He made
freak of nature, man.
yeah.
Mr. Rebound, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course Rip Hamilton. I'm gonna have to look through my Rip Hamilton cards.
See, you got some, just like I know five or six Pokemon, five or six players.
Specifically the 2004 Detroit Pistons team.
It's a great
That's it.
team. It's a great
That's
team.
so funny.
Oh man. All right. That feels good. I've that was a good round. I got educated there. That was really helpful. Danny,
Great.
this has been an awesome conversation. Like I have some homework to do. I'm gonna what was the trash guy's name again?
Oh, Trubbish.
Rubbish.
Yeah, and then it
I'm
evolves
I'm on
into
it.
Garbodor. So you have two Pokemon to look up there.
I'm going after some Trubbish. It's gonna be fun. So, Danny, if any of our listeners, want to follow you or enter a break with you or just reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find you and on the different platforms?
Oh, I'm all over the place. You can look me up at Super Duper Danny. Pretty much, yeah, anywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, um, Twitter or X.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I mostly do. I've been trying to do a lot more Instagram reels and TikToks, but I definitely started as a YouTuber, so that's where you can find me for sure.
Super duper Danny. Yeah,
Super
definitely
Duper
definitely
Danny.
follow her. She's fun and vibrant and it's a great channel. A lot of
Thanks.
positivity. So, good stuff.
Thanks, man.
Thanks again, Danny. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.